Guys, welcome to the I Love CVille Show. It's great to be with you on a gorgeous Tuesday across Charlottesville, Albemarle County, Central Virginia, and the world. My name is Jerry Miller. A pleasure to connect with you on this platform where we showcase the best of Charlottesville, Virginia, and the surrounding counties. The whole mission for us is positivity from an entrepreneurship standpoint, a business standpoint, a nonprofit standpoint, an influencer standpoint, folks that are making our community a better place. And I think we have two guests that absolutely epitomize that. Our first guest, and ladies first, of course, is Elizabeth Cromwell. She's the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Charlottesville Regional Chamber of Commerce. We also have Deepak Singh in the house. This gentleman, an author, a journalist, someone who absolutely loves Charlottesville as well. We will showcase his rise through the Charlottesville community from a sales associate at an electronics store in the community to now being a published author and a wordsmith of epic proportions.
A radio commentator.
And a radio commentator as well. I love when radio commentators come on the show because we know they have the gift of gab, which makes my job that much easier. Before we get to our esteemed guests, let's thank some of the folks that make the program possible. First, one of our favorite clients, we're their advertising agency of record, and it's Interstate Pest and Service Companies. I'm going to give you the elevator pitch of this business. It started in 1969 with the first generation, one man and one truck and some sweat equity, and that was Mr. Wells. In 1969, he took his one truck to his first client, his first home, serviced them successfully, and then would go to the nearest payphone where he would call his second customer and say, "May come see you now." Today, Interstate Pest and Service Companies is almost 100 employees strong. They have a Commonwealth-wide footprint with the office right around the corner, the headquarters from Bodo's Bagels on Harris, an office in Richmond, and an office in the Shenandoah Valley. They are making our community a better place for everyone. So is Dr. Scott Wagner, another one of our fantastic clients of Scott Wagner Chiropractic and Sports Medicine. Whether it's chiropractic care, physical therapy, or sports medicine, Dr. Wagner and his team have your back. In fact, that's why we came up with the tagline, "Who's got your back?" Dr. Wagner certainly does. Guys, I have the easy job. All I have to do is be myself, 10 to 12 hours a week on this microphone in front of these cameras and showcase a town and a community that I love, and that's Charlottesville. The folks that have the hard job are Harris Tolber, our director, Judah Wickhauer, Lauren Linsky, and the team upstairs that help produce and make the program possible. I always like to salute the team because it's teamwork to make the dream work in any business that you're in, and we epitomize that. I think we should go to the studio cam, and let's welcome two guests that I'm excited to introduce you to. In fact, I think you probably know one extremely well, and we'll go ladies first with Elizabeth Cromwell. She's the CEO and President of the Charlottesville Regional Chamber of Commerce. First, I'm going to say hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thanks
Good.
for inviting me.
It's our pleasure. I was immediately drawn to your positive energy and how you kind of like captivated and like really like made the room better at the Better Business Awards at the Paramount. I really am a big fan of energy, and yours is one that's magnetizing and so positive. I can see why you're a phenomenal leader. I'm going to get out of the way and say, who is Elizabeth Cromwell? Introduce yourself to the world.
No, I think you should keep going.
I can't
That was
keep
really
going
nice.
if you want me to.
No, thank you. I'm just delighted to be here today. And I have to say, I've kind of been stalking your organization a little bit because you're almost right across the street.
We are.
And I love what you're doing over here, and I think you guys do great work. So my name is Elizabeth Cromwell. I have been living here in Charlottesville for about 9 months or so now. And as you said, I'm with the Charlottesville Regional Chamber of Commerce. I've got a great team of people working over there. Also, some wonderful chamber members, ambassadors, committee members. And so I'm getting to know the community through all of them, really. It's been a great 9 months so far, and I think Charlottesville is a phenomenal town.
It is a phenomenal town, and we and the community have really embraced you. I've heard from many business leaders in the community how welcoming and such a fantastic leader you are. I saw it firsthand when you were presenting an award at the Paramount Theater with Terry Kent and her organization, Charlottesville Climate Collaborative. Follow-up question for you. Aspects of Charlottesville that you love so far 9 months in?
Well, I think the one thing I noticed first is that there are so many golden opportunities for partnership and collaboration. And I feel like the Chamber has a real opportunity to help kind of be the connector for all these different organizations. I think some of them have had some ad hoc relationships, but what I've been really trying to focus on these last 9 months, and we're going to keep on doing it, is building partnerships like crazy. Collaboration, I think there are a lot of shared interests here in the community, and even when people don't agree 100% of the time, I think whenever you do have alignment, it's time to run and make really transformative things happen. So it's been exciting kind of learning
love
about
it.
that.
How about professional background? You were telling us off air, not only a professional background as a leader in another chamber of commerce, but also a sports professional background, which I found really cool.
Well, I actually started in professional sports,
Cool.
Corporate sponsorship, and I'm going back many, many years. But I remember after I got out of college, I remember reading an article. I think it was in Time magazine, that's our Newsweek, one of those. And it was an article about the business of Wimbledon. And it was a whole spread of, pictures of these corporate tents and a lot of people doing a lot of business on the platform of professional sports. And being 22, I thought that sounded pretty cool, and just happened to stumble into a job working for one of the top firms in that field, which was called ProServe out of Washington, D.C. So our company managed Michael Jordan and a lot of the big athletes of the time. And so I worked in the men's tennis division for a few years. After that, I moved on into golf triathlons, and then became the race director of a huge race out in San Francisco called the Beta Breakers Race, which at that time was the largest race in the country with about 85,000 registered runners. So that was kind of how I worked in the sports field. I'm actually still on the board of the San Francisco Marathon, and we'll be heading out there in a couple of weeks for that race.
Look at you.
So it's a lot of fun.
Bi-coastal living for
Yeah,
Elizabeth.
a little bit.
I love it. I love it. We're getting some folks watching right now. We'll thank our viewers, and you got a message already. Roger Voinze is watching. Neil Williamson is watching from the Free Enterprise Forum. Andre Xavier, the CEO and owner of CVille Hop on Tour, is watching. Ray Cadell, the real estate magnate, is watching. Anja Andalik is watching at Fig Bistro on the UVA corner. She's the restaurateur. You're getting props from John Michael Bailey. Saying,
Hi,
howdy,
John.
how are you?
My former board chair.
I love it. I love it. Shows the power of social media here. Give it a like, give it a share, just like Jen Runkles has done, like Eva Dunn has done, like Brian Reed, like Kimberly Wynn, like Carol McQuaid,
Hi,
like Elizabeth Lucas has done. You're obviously a very popular
Wow.
gal. We have a lot of folks watching right now. Sean Tubbs says, hi, Deepak.
Hi, Sean.
Sean says, I'm watching to see Deepak make his I Love CVille debut.
All right.
We'll throw it to Deepak, and then we're going to have a roundtable discussion. Turn her answers from start to finish with my first question to the first highlight reel or sizzle reel, because I thought it was a great introduction of who Elizabeth was, Harris. And I'll get out of the way. Deepak Singh, who are you?
My name is Deepak Singh, as you said. I also would like to talk about Charlottesville because I moved here in 2003, 15 years ago, and this is the second city I've lived in anywhere after Lucknow, India, where I was born and raised. So when I moved here in 2003, when I first came, can I just ramble on?
Sure. No rules at I Love CVille.
So when I moved into a house right near Cabell Hall with a bunch of other anthropologists, my wife was going to school here for a PhD. So the plumber, the next day I arrived, I walked in, he was trying to fix something. And I told him, I just arrived from India. He's like, well, just in time for Isabel. So I said, who is she? He's like, oh, you don't know? It was a big storm, Category 4 arriving in a week after I had arrived. And it was a lot of devastation. Trees were down, and we lost power for a week. And I didn't know that, you could be without power in America. So we had to go to somebody else's house because they had a stove, like a gas stove, so we could eat there. And after that, I just started wandering around Charlottesville on foot. And I got lost around Cherry Avenue. And this was before iPhone, so I didn't have any maps or anything. I didn't take the map. I just started walking. And I noticed that there are no people walking around. Everybody was in a car. driving by, and I got lost. I thought maybe I can always ask somebody where I told them my address, but I couldn't find anybody. So I saw a girl coming out of a house. She was in a sports bra and shorts and, nice shoes, and she started running away from me. She was on a run. So I thought maybe I should just follow her and try to ask, but I tried to follow, and she kept running away. Thought she was this guy's, what he's doing. Anyway, but I learned quickly that I should just have my address or have some kind of map where I was going. And I fell in love with UVA, and I started walking around. It was a beautiful city for me to come to because this is such a diverse place, and UVA has so many, people from all over the world. And I worked here, and for 8 years, I lived from 2003 to 11. And this is my second home, and I'm happy to be visiting here. I'm only here for a week. I'm leaving actually an hour after this.
Wow.
And so Charlottesville has a special place in my heart. And yeah, you have another question?
Sure. How about you, the author?
Yeah.
Tell us about the book, the title, and the whole motif and the theme and the evolution of the book.
I've got 2 books. So I'll talk about both because both are set here. The first one is called Chasing America, of lollipops, ferocious dogs, and nightclubs. That is me bumbling around Charlottesville, making mistakes, driving on the wrong side of the road, walking into a locker room to get to the swimming pool with a room full of naked men, talking about politics nonchalantly. I was like, shocked, have I made a mistake? Why am I here? And trying to order a sandwich from a Subway. It was so many questions. They asked you what kind of cheese, what kind of bread, and what kind of meat. And I wasn't prepared for that. So I wrote a book with all these stories, all these new mistakes that I made, and self-deprecating humor that the book is about. The second book is set in a retail store where I worked as a sales associate selling electronics. And a lot of the products I didn't know that they existed, and I didn't know why, like shower radio. When the guy walked in, it's like, I want a shower radio. It's like, excuse me, sir, we do have it, but why would you want to listen to radio when you were taking a shower? You could step out and then listen. And he said, well, my wife gets angry when I'm listening to her, so I need to listen to radio when I'm in the shower. So lots of things like, metal detector and different kinds of American gadgets, which I hadn't known about in America. I had to learn on the job and also get to know about different kinds of accents, especially rural Virginia accent. And also learning about myself, I had to work a different job. It was learning curve, steep learning curve for me, and working with people who were much younger than me, but married and had kids. So it was quite a journey. I worked there from 2004 to 2006. And those are the experiences I wrote about in that book.
I love it. Where can we find the book?
Oh, it's everywhere, on Amazon, on Goodreads, all the websites that you have, all kinds of Barnes & Noble.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm excited to take a deep dive into the book. Welcome, Marty Hutlaw from NBC 29. Thank you, Grace, for joining us in Richmond. Throw this to you. A lot of folks we ask on the show, I've been here since 2000, and Elizabeth came here as a first year at UVA, and then fell in love with the community. A lot of folks feel one of 2 ways when they first arrive to Charlottesville. They're like, it's a little tough to break into because everyone has their circles and their niches and they're kind of set in stone. And then there's the alternative where it's like, I felt welcome and embraced and hospitable and just right away felt like home. Open-ended question. Which avenue was you when you came to Charlottesville?
Well, I definitely felt welcomed right away.
Okay.
Which maybe it goes back to when I was a kid. I sort of hung out with the jocks and the smart kids, and I wasn't really part of any particular
You get along with everybody.
I try to get along with everybody.
You do.
So I feel like I've been warmly welcomed here. It's been interesting because there are some big differences between Virginia and Maryland, where I spent the last 20 years. And every now and then I sort of realize that I'm not in Maryland anymore. But everyone has been just wonderful, and I'm loving it here.
Biggest adjustment for you in Charlottesville from Maryland and maybe some West Coast times? Was it the dialect or the accent?
No.
What was the biggest adjustment?
My mother is from Virginia originally, so I grew up with that accent. I think I realized when I got here that I was probably a little too rigid with my meeting times and being really, I think people might have thought I was a little rude because I was very sensitive to a 1 hour meeting being 1 hour and getting launched right away into meeting stuff.
I like that.
And, well, I found people in Virginia, there's a little more relaxed pace to getting started in some of those conversations, and I'm fine with that. I just didn't know that, so I think I may have come off a little bit possibly abrupt at first, but I'm getting right into the swing of things, so I'm okay now.
Well, personally, I hope you don't change, because our most precious commodity is our time, and I'm also a to-the-point person and like to get things done.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw it to you, Deepak. You've touched on this, and then let's just have a conversation here. Second city you've ever lived.
Yep.
I mean, you talked about the language and the dialect.
Yeah.
You talked about an affinity for maybe like frivolous electronics.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about the driving.
Mm-hmm.
Charlottesville, what else from a culture shock standpoint?
A lot of things. The first big shock to me was the lack of people, like not enough people. India is a country of more than 1 billion people. You can have 2,000 people walking at you at 6 a.m. in the morning, and it's no big deal.
Wow.
Here, you can, on a cold day, you can walk whole downtown mall and still not see like 10 people. I'm not, maybe more than that, but I'm exaggerating. And so that was like, where is everybody? Where are they? Where are they? Are they hiding, or there's just not enough people compared to India? So that felt strange to me. And the weather was different because I had never seen snow in my life. I'd arrived in September, which was beautiful, heavenly, and the leaves were falling, and I learned why the season of fall was called fall, because there was so many leaves falling. And soon it got very cold. In November and December, I had the first snow. I couldn't believe it. Snow was falling on me. I was touching it and just taking loads of pictures. This was before digital cameras, so I was taking pictures and lots of pictures and with all the angles possible. So I got used to that, and the food was different. I had no Indian connection here. I came through my wife, who's an American woman who was doing a PhD, so I was totally taken out of my Indian comfort zone, and I was eating mostly American food, and I couldn't find dal or samosas easily, so it took me a while to get used to that. And when I did find a first Indian restaurant, I was very happy. And
Which one was that?
I think it was Milan.
Oh, yeah. On 29.
29, yeah.
Yeah.
It's still there, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Building owned by my buddy Zanice,
Right.
who also owns Jack and Jill's. So you like Milan, huh?
I loved Milan. Yeah, it was lots of, the buffet. You can eat what you want. In India, you don't really often have buffet. You just order what you get. Here is because you allow people to choose. If you don't like one thing, you can go to the next. That was also a novelty for me. So, but the food was good, but it was a little bit, watered down to cater to American people, but it's still good, very good. So I liked that part, and I got used to it. And what else did I? Also, the driving part. I didn't know how to drive in India. I only drove motorcycles. So I thought, if I wanted to learn to drive well and not get a single ticket, which I haven't gotten today, still 15 years. No.
Better than my record.
I went to a driving school, and there was this lady who taught me. So she made me pull out the car, and immediately I was on the wrong side of the road. She said, "What are you doing?" She started ranking on my steel, and I said, "I'm sorry, I'm from India." She said, "But you're in America now." But I learned quickly. She yelled at me a lot for the whole week, but, no ticket.
I love it, Deepak.
Good education.
That's the second sizzle reel. My question to Deepak and his answers about Charlottesville, very well done. We have some commentary from the audience that we will relay. Rory Stolzenberg, one of our esteemed planning commissioners, is watching right now. Thank you for joining us, Rory. We have folks at City Hall that are watching the program. Christy Atkins Butler says, Elizabeth has always been and will always be my favorite boss. So you're getting some props there from Christy. Where's Christy watching right now?
Frederick County Chamber of Commerce.
Frederick County Chamber of Commerce.
Hi, Christy.
Welcome, Frederick County. A message from Roger. Deepak, you are doing a great job. Make sure you tell them about NPR experiences and a little bit about India, your home, and why you love Charlottesville so much. You have done that. We will talk NPR.
Thank you, Roger. Will do.
I have to go to an appointment now, so I'm going to watch this show in totality later. Dana Mook is watching, I believe, at ACAC. Harrison Scott Wallace, hello. Elizabeth, let me throw this to you here. Wow, we got a lot of messages coming in here on the phone. I will get to these guys very shortly. Charlottesville, restaurants, vineyards, wineries, breweries, hiking, outside, nature, ACC sports. any or all of the above for Elizabeth Cromwell? And if so, which ones?
Well, I gained 12 pounds since I got here.
You like food? It does not show.
So I'm doing well. No, the whole farm to table thing is just like crazy and wonderful. And, I came from a community. Frederick had a ton of really fine restaurants and a lot of entrepreneurs, locally owned places. And I'm finding that here too. And every day I try to walk the downtown mall, find a new place. But I've also made my way outside of downtown and around a number of the wineries, which are beautiful, absolutely beautiful. We have a chamber member, Afton Mountain Vineyards, invited me. The Smiths invited me out for lunch there last week, and every time I step into a new place, it just looks like heaven. It's beautiful out there. So I'm loving it. I've spent a lot of time at the football games, been to basketball game. In fact, we're going to launch it tomorrow. We were able to negotiate a really great deal for chamber members for football tickets for the upcoming season. So 20% off for chamber members. So we're trying
to join the chamber.
Yeah, join the chamber. We're trying to create a lot of new member value. So we are really, really engaged all over the place. Our Let's Connect events we've been having at all different kinds of places. We had one at the Boar's Head, but we also had one recently at WorkSource Enterprises to kind of showcase the different kinds of businesses that are in the community here. The next one's going to be at Scott Stadium, so that's going to be crazy.
Cool.
Yeah.
I really was impressed with an event the Chamber hosted, and this topic I'm going to relay to you. You hosted a minority business roundtable. I believe Mayor Walker was one of the moderators. Is that the right terminology? Or one of the speakers?
She was the keynote speaker.
Okay, she was the keynote speaker. It was well attended. I want to throw that topic to you, and then I want to pivot after her answer and ask how the community embraced you coming from India to Charlottesville, and perhaps how the community has evolved with its thinking when it comes to this topic. First, the question to you, Elizabeth.
Well, the Chamber has a number of roundtables and councils, and I'm still kind of wrapping my arms around all of those because there's probably about a dozen of them. They represent different segments of the business community, and one of my goals is to have the Chamber kind of provide a little bit more structure and framework around what they're going to focus on. So when the Business Roundtable had Mayor Walker come about a week ago, that was a great example of giving me an opportunity to learn more about the things that matter to that audience. What I found, generally speaking, is that all the councils and roundtables really care about things like infrastructure. They care about the talent pipeline and workforce issues, and they care about the branding and reputation of this business community. So those are the things that really all of our councils and roundtables revolve around. So hearing Mayor Walker's point of view is important to us as we build out our goals and objectives for the Chamber for the next few years.
I love that answer. I got a follow-up for you. Then, Deepak, I'm going to get you in the mix. You came to Charlottesville at a time of, maybe turmoil, at a time where we're at a crossroads, post August 11th and 12th. And you undoubtedly, because of your position, professional position, are a leader in the community. And you obviously have the skill set to rise and surpass every benchmark and threshold that's expected of you.
Wow,
and I mean
thanks.
that
Hope so.
authentically. I'm going to go with this. When you were considering the position, were you considering the position of where the community was in at the time?
Yes,
Okay.
I was. And, to be totally honest, I wasn't looking for a job. I came here last year to be a speaker at the Tom Tom Festival.
Cool.
And so I was invited there to talk about Frederick, Maryland, the power of collaboration and the power of public-private partnerships to get things done. And so I came here with a panel, including my mayor, head of tourism, 2 CEOs of tech companies, and we talked about how when you align and when you find common ground, how you can move mountains. And so at the end of that discussion, some of the members of the search committee for the Charlottesville Chamber were in the audience.
We're like, dude, you're the one.
And they let me know that there was an opening here. And that was the first time that I really thought about picking up and moving my life to another place. And I have to tell you, I'm not sure there's any other place in the country that I would have done this for. But I honestly think, and I said at the time, I think Charlottesville is the most important small city in the United States today. And I think Charlottesville is addressing issues that maybe some other communities already have, but a lot of them haven't. And I think it's a golden opportunity to, for me in some small way to help move this community forward. That's why I took the job.
One of the best answers we have had on this show. No BS. You got to follow up that answer right there. My question to Elizabeth, please, for the third sizzle reel. Keep it going through Deepak's answer. I'm going to get out of your way here. You got a lot of folks watching and giving you some props here. Sam Pack is watching.
Okay.
Where's Sam Pack watching
Hi,
right now?
Sam Pack. He must be in Japan right now, but he lives in Ohio.
Okay, Akash Sexana. Am I saying Akash?
Oh, somewhere in India. Any names you cannot pronounce, they're in India.
Okay, they're in India right now. Welcome, India and Japan, to the I Love CVille Show. We'd love to see that. August 11th, August 12th, your time in Charlottesville and the community, and how the community, whether that was embracing, not so much, show is yours.
So when I came here and I started working in retail, but I also wanted to reach out to the community. I mean, instead of waiting for the community to embrace me, I started doing stories for WVTF, local NPR station, and I started doing stories for all the unsung heroes that lived in Charlottesville. Like one of the guys was Bobby, who was a barber on JPA. I think he passed away recently. He was very near the fried chicken place.
Yeah,
He was
Bishop.
Bishop.
Yeah, right by Dirty Nelly's and Fry
Exactly,
Springs.
yes.
He actually owns that quarter. I think he's still alive.
I did a story. It was lovely. I always went to him for my haircut, and I found him so interesting because he used to give free haircuts to people who were disabled in some way.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the first stories for WVTF. And then I found out other people. There was a guy at the farmer's market who sold cheese, but his cheese was not pasteurized, so they didn't allow him to sell cheese. So he started giving it away for donation. And he said he was doing even better than before. So I started learning about all these people, and I also reached out to a Derby next to the Blue Moon Diner, the Derby Queens.
The Derby Dames.
Derby Dames.
Yeah.
Dames. So this I'm talking about is 2004 or 5, older
Sure.
times, And so I reached out to the community. And of course they embraced me. This guy comes from India, wants to learn about America. He speaks with a different accent, but they were open to tell me anything I wanted to ask. And so I loved my time, and I got to know about the city with a microphone in my hand, reaching out to people, walking around the city and finding stories. And
Love that.
And I haven't lived here since 2011. Town has changed. I've lived in a million other places. But if I were to move to Charlottesville, I would move here today if I had a job.
Where do you live now?
Tampa, Florida.
Tampa, Florida. Okay.
Yeah. But Charlottesville has embraced me, of course, to your answer. And I embrace Charlottesville.
Christopher Eagle, the real estate magnate, Real Estate 3, says it's Wayside Barbershop, Bobby Bishop, so we were both right.
Okay.
He is still alive and still giving haircuts. He's cut my hair for years. He's fantastic. I'll add to something with Christopher Eagle. I believe Bobby Bishop owns that entire Dirty Nelly's quarter. And frankly, guys, as an entrepreneur, he's sitting on a gold mine right now. Let me throw this to you. You've always felt embraced? How have you seen the city change over your time here?
Working in retail, so some customers got angry, but then I cannot say this was because of me. I came from India or spoke with a different accent. It's just if the product is not good or something, customers can get angry at you. But I also got some people who called me various names, but then that's part of the retail job. You're meeting people coming at you. You cannot hide from them, and you have to talk to them because they are in your store. But other than that, I didn't feel like I wasn't welcomed or I didn't belong here. I mean, I'm from India, of course. I will never be a person from Charlottesville, but I never felt like I was not welcome here. I should go somewhere else. I don't know how I'd feel today. I mean, things might be different now. I don't know. But I was happy.
I love it. I love it. Well, you, just like Elizabeth, have a great energy to you. You're getting some props as well, and we'll relay it. Thank you, Christopher Eagle, for that. We're going to relay this from Louise Long, who's watching in Crozet. I thoroughly am enjoying this conversation. Holly Singh says, hi, great conversation, watching start to finish. Elizabeth, what do you think the role is from a micro and macro standpoint for the Chamber of Commerce in a community like Charlottesville, which is what, roughly 50,000 population, and Central Virginia in totality, roughly, let's call it 300,000 with the outer counties from a citizen standpoint?
Well, I think there's, from a micro and macro standpoint, I think there's really two kind of directions or goals for the Chamber. One is more transactional, and that is to help businesses, especially small businesses, but all businesses, succeed. And so we want to provide the tools and resources and networking opportunities to connect people with each other. So, there has to be a good return on investment. At the macro standpoint, I think there is an opportunity for the Chamber to magnify the voice of the business community, and I know you do that as well. I think there are a lot of smaller megaphones that are all working really hard, but I think when a chamber works at its top performance level, there's one big fat megaphone that shares the views of the business community. And what's really important about that is what I said earlier, is people aren't going to agree 100% of the time on issues. But when you agree, when more than half of the community agrees on something, I think it's a great opportunity to keep on pushing forward. And so we really want to be a voice for people where it shows the sum is greater than the parts.
Does the Chamber have a responsibility at all from a social standpoint? And what I mean by social is obviously the Chamber is a component with helping and being a proponent for diversity within the business community. But some of the social issues we are facing, how does the Chamber embrace or encounter or approach those topics?
Well, it's a great question. We actually just completed about 2 weeks ago a new strategic plan.
Nice.
And we do...
Done that in 9 months already?
Yeah, we did that in about 3 months.
Elizabeth Cromwell, get it, girl.
Yeah, just got to get everybody rowing the boat the same direction. So, and we do address that. I think for me, the most important part about a chamber is maintaining focus in that we want to be looking at everything through the lens of business. And so what I mean by that is when I got to my last job at the Frederick Chamber, there was a proposal on my desk about, ending homelessness, ending hunger, and a number of other super important critical issues to the community. My perspective on that is that those issues, the kind of social issues that you're talking about, always have to be looked at and honed through the lens of the business owner and through employee standpoint. So of course, diversity, equity, inclusion are all incredibly important to this business community. It's going to make us a stronger business community, and that's, I think, what really our goal has to be. I think it's really just important that we maintain that focus.
Love that answer. James Jolly, welcome to the show. Faith Watcherter, am I messing her name up? Faith,
Close
I'm
enough.
sorry.
Hi, Faith.
Welcome to the program. Deepak, I want to get you in the mix. First, Sam, I got someone watching that says, Jerry, pronounce his name correctly.
Well, my name is pronounced Deepak.
Okay.
But most people pronounce it Deepak, and even
Okay.
sometimes I forget my name is Deepak. I say Deepak.
Okay.
So Deepak.
Deepak.
Got it.
Okay. All right. I want to make sure I do that. Thank you, Sam, for bringing that to my attention in India. I appreciate that, Sam. Your rise to an MBA from, and you came to the United States already well-degreed in credential.
Yeah. This MBA is from India.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the rise up the, for lack of a better phrase, like, I guess it's called the socioeconomic ladder. The challenges, the trials, and the tribulations.
Well, so I did come with an MBA from India, a master's degree, and I also worked for BBC World Service in India. So I came here and I was looking for something comparable. I had a very good job and good education. I wasn't. I mean, if I knew before moving here that I would be working in retail for 2 years, as a sales associate, I probably wouldn't have come. But I was already here, and I couldn't find the job that I wanted. So I worked in retail, which was I don't regret it now because it was a learning experience for me, and I learned about America. I wouldn't have met so many people on a daily basis on the sales floor, which I got to meet. It was a good traffic. Mall is, I don't know, do you know how the Fashion Square Mall is doing? That's where the place was.
Fashion Square Mall, I'm going to say this is
Yeah.
only coming from me, not anybody else in the
Right.
round table. Not doing so hot right now.
Okay, so it was a place to be then in 2003, 4, 5, and a lot of people came to visit. So, but now, as you said, it's not doing too well. I wouldn't have come here if I knew that I was going to be working in retail. But I stayed there and I worked and I met a lot of people and wrote about it. And my rise as socioeconomic on a socioeconomic ladder wasn't very good. I mean, I made a living, but I wasn't getting rich selling like phones and radar detectors and wires and cables. Other than that, as a person, as a human being, I grew, and I got to know the city quite well. So that is it.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
The Charlottesville, I've been here 19 years. It's going to be a long-term home, trying to create a business that I can eventually pass along to my little boy. Wife actively involved in the business, doing payables and receivables and project management while doing an amazing superhero job of keeping our son alive. Welcome Michael Guthrie, CEO of Roy Wheeler, Phyllis Templeton of Corner Restaurant, and Jessica Pasternak from Kilwins on the Mall. Where I'm going with this is it's like I feel like the community, and you have some perspective to share on this, is so like prime for like an incredible boom. Like we have this like farm system in the University of Virginia just producing thousands of people every day that want to now like have a millennial mindset where that's like more like less perhaps about the money and more about quality of life and experiences. We have a community that is like so proud to pump its chest and say, I'm from Charlottesville. And we have folks that are coming from Frederick or Maryland and from California, from Silicon Valley, from New York City, from Long Island, and setting up shop and bringing their income and their wealth and saying, let's make this community better. I'm so excited for the future of Charlottesville. What are your thoughts on what's in store potentially? I guess this is kind of an economist question for like the next 1, 3, and 5 years, perhaps in this community.
Wow, that's a great question. I'm just as excited as you are. I think that every community has issues, has things that are going well and has things that aren't going well. Those are things to work on at the same time. And the things that are going well, I think you need to max out to the greatest extent possible because that's going to build your tax base. That's going to make other things possible. So I'm really excited for, as I've said before, my mantra is collaboration. And we are actually talking with some of the other business stakeholders in this community about doing a lot more together. And I think what we're going to find over the next 1, 3, and 5 years is as we grow out those kinds of partnerships, we may become something of a national model is my goal. One of the things that we did at the Frederick Chamber, which I was very excited about, is we were located on the outskirts of downtown for about a decade. One of the key reasons they moved out there was because of parking, plentiful parking, and a very large meeting space. To me, that wasn't good enough because
You're not in the heartbeat.
You're not in the heartbeat, and you have to be going to the chamber to go to the chamber. And we really wanted to engage with all of the other partners because we strongly felt that we could sell the community a heck of a lot better when we were linked with all of the other, with the university locally, with the Office of Economic Development, with Fort Detrick, which was one of our partners there, with the Maryland Technology Council. So one of the things we did is we all went in together under one roof into a building in the heart of downtown Frederick. And it, within 6 months, became a real national model, and we started getting profiled, all over the country about the power of collaboration. That's actually what I was here at TomTom talking about. That same concept will work here in Charlottesville, and it's going to happen. I can't go into too many details on that right now, but I'd love to come back because we're headed in that direction.
Do you like this location for the chamber?
I like the location. The building is insufficient for our needs.
Understood.
Very insufficient.
So just from a space inside, I mean, it doesn't have the kind of like the epicenter if you wanted to have like a conference, if you may.
Right.
I almost feel like, and I'm just going to throw this out there, and then Deepak, I want to get you in the mix. I almost feel like Charlottesville and Albemarle County is so like underserved without having like a go-to like, is it a visitor center or a conference center of some kind?
Yes. So there's discussion about a potential new visitor center location, the possibility of a new conference center. Certainly the chamber is looking for a different kind of environment. Probably the biggest thing I noticed when I got here about this chamber is in my last chamber, we went through at least 15 pots of coffee a day. We had one of our chamber members roast our own roast we had to serve at the chamber, and that's because we literally had, hundreds of people on some days coming and going from a very busy meeting space. I made sure that we got a liquor permit so that we could have wine
Smart
and cheese
gal.
for all of
Yes.
our speaking engagements there. And right now, while this location is wonderful, we can't accommodate more than 10 to 15 people in our meeting room. We can't have a board meeting of our own board in our chamber office. And so it's time for us to move up a notch on
Respect that answer so much on the show. Neil's got a good question for you. We'll get to that in a matter of moments. I want to get you in the mix. Your book is and you spotlighted this for Elizabeth and I off air, is a book that champions a success story. It's about positivity.
Positivity.
A positivity. Yeah. Throw that to you.
So success in a way because I was as successful as a salesperson. I wasn't making $1 million, but I grew from someone who couldn't even talk to the people. I was scared of the customers because I didn't know what they were looking for. I didn't know the electronics. It was a different kind of selling techniques. You have to have your personal space. You have to leave the customer alone if they have said, I'm just looking. You cannot just, there's a whole different cultural, you come from a different country, all of a sudden you land in a sales store trying to convince somebody that they should buy. It's a big leap. So I went from there to becoming one of the best salesmen in the several stores around the city and the district.
Love that.
But again, the downside of it is that a lot of people who work in retail are struggling to make ends meet because of the low wage.
Especially in Charlottesville.
Charlottesville. So Charlottesville is an expensive city to live in.
It is.
So that's what the book is about. I learned about so much about the electronics, how to talk to people, about the culture, but I was still struggling as far as my career was concerned. So still that I grew emotionally as a person, as a human being, and also I knew a lot about America. And also this is a place which made me a writer. I got too many stories to tell, which I did, and a couple of books and several stories for NPR and PRI's The World. Charlottesville keeps coming in my stories, even though I don't live here anymore. And I also want to mention now that Charlottesville has changed a lot in a lot of ways, the landscape especially. Driving around to see there's a new CVS store coming on the barracks and the corner of Emmett. That was a new thing.
In the old Anderson's Carriage House location.
I cannot recognize the Midwest on Main Street. There's two big buildings, student housing or whatever that is, covering both sides. And even like so many stores have changed in the downtown mall. There used to be lots of old stores in the York Place, and this is a new Grit Coffee that used to be a Cafe Cubana, if you remember that.
Tony's my neighbor.
Okay.
Tony Jorge.
Okay.
Yeah.
So city has changed in different ways, but still Charlottesville. And what was your question originally?
Let me throw this to you. If you had moved from India, you live in Tampa now.
Yeah.
If you had moved to Tampa
instead
of Charlottesville,
yeah,
how would that have impacted you?
Very different, because the Tampa's climate right now is quite like India's. It's hot and it's humid, and the roads are very flat. It doesn't snow there. And the people are also come from very Latin background. There are a lot of people who look like me. They may be from Cuba or Colombia, and lots of big South Asian presence, lots of Indian stores. So probably my transition would have been slightly easier in terms of culture acclimatization. But you get to know people more in a smaller community like Charlottesville. You know a lot of people. You meet them because you see them on farmers market and Friday after Friday, things like those kind of things. Tampa is a huge city with 1 million people. So I don't know. I mean, would have been different in some ways, not so different in some ways.
Respect. I respect
But
that answer.
I still think that I'm glad that I came to Charlottesville, not Tampa.
Yeah, I'm glad you came to Charlottesville too. I'm looking forward to reading your book. We're going to
Sure.
talk about your book some more in a second.
Okay.
We have some questions, and if you'd like to relay questions or comments or share perspective with either Elizabeth or Deepak, I'm happy to do that. This question is from Neil Williamson, and you have been passed anytime you want to come on this show, Neil. From the Free Enterprise Forum, he's a Twitter rock star, covers land use extremely well for the Free Enterprise Forum, and he has a question for Elizabeth. You sit on the Convention and Visitors Bureau. What do you think of the future of tourism collaboration between Charlottesville and Albemarle County and the new executive director? Very good question there. New executive director, correct me if I'm wrong, Nashville, Southwestern, give me...
Bristol.
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 Okay, that's what I was thinking,
Yep.
Bristol.
Courtney Caucasian, which rhymes with vacation, as she told us.
Okay, I love when people do that.
Yep.
So I introduced myself. My name is Jerry, like Tom and Jerry, and people always remember that. She replaces Adam Healy, who I thought did a job well done. So his question is, what you might think of the future of tourism collaboration between the two municipalities, Charlottesville and Albemarle, and the new executive director.
Well, first of all, about the new executive director, I am on that board and did not serve on the hiring committee, but participated in the vote. And I was super impressed with Courtney. I think she's going to do a great job. She is a very energetic, creative person. She doesn't have really years and years of doing things a certain way. So I think she's going to be sort of a good person to look at everything in a fresh way. One of the things that was really interesting about her is Bristol actually is partly in Virginia and partly in Tennessee. The state line runs right down the middle of Main Street. And she talked a bit about the balancing act between representing two different states that contribute funds for tourism there. And, in some ways there was some similar kind of discussion about Charlottesville and Albemarle County. I have not been on a tourism board that is structured the way this one is. I'm going to be very interested to see how all of that works. We have a lot of elected officials and both city and county government representation on that board, which I see the pros to it, but I also think it's really important that the tourism professionals who are represented on that board have a very strong voice.
Totally agree with that. As an entrepreneur.
Yeah, this is...
Because they're the experts.
They live and breathe that.
Right.
Yeah, but I also understand that the elected officials and the government officials have a perspective regarding budgeting and funding, those kinds of things. And I hope that the group can collaborate and defer to each other in each other's areas of specialty, really, because I think that's important. So I was asked to serve on as the chair of the subcommittee on conference center feasibility. And so
Nice.
we're about to gather our first meeting next week to discuss that. There is a report that has been produced, an independent report, so we'll be going through that. But I do think one of the big issues about that project is if something like that happens, where would it happen? Would it be in the city? Would it be in the county? Or would it be split down the middle? So that's going to be an exciting project.
Neil has posted a link to a piece of content about this very topic. I agree. Sean Tubbs, very interesting answer to the question. I agree. What I respect about that answer and what I respect about you is you're a straight shooter.
Try to be, absolutely.
Yeah, I respect that. A follow-up, and this is a natural follow-up. This is from Andre Xavier, who is the owner of CVille Hop-On Tours. He's also the owner of CVille Travel, so he's immersed in the tourism space. He's watching now. And I'm going to paraphrase for him for the sake of this program. He said, Bristol, perhaps not the most thriving economy or location from a tourism standpoint. And he's basically asking why someone from Bristol. Are you seeing someone in this candidate has the potential to grow into the position? Is that what you're seeing here?
I think that you can teach people how to be good managers. You can't teach them collaboration, connection with the public. I think what we saw in her are qualities that you can't learn, if that makes sense. I think the county, both the city and county, have support structure to assist people with, leadership training, that kind of thing. But I think she's going to do a great job. I'm not really concerned about the fact that she's from a community that, may not be as well known as Charlottesville. I think she has solid skills. And, honestly, I think smaller places have to be a heck of a lot scrappier. They have great tourism.
Good perspective there.
Yeah, they have to work harder, honestly. And so I think she brings some innovative ideas. I did not, as I said, participate on the hiring committee, so I don't know all of the other people. I think there were probably about between 40 and 50 applicants, I think.
It's a hell of a job.
Yeah, but I think she's going to do a great job.
Love it. I love it. You're getting props from Andre on the answer. Give it a like, give it a share. Here's an interesting, and it's very topical. What is Charlottesville's brand equity or brand stigma or the connotations associated with the brand, maybe in India, maybe in Tampa, and some of the other places that you've been, because you're very cosmopolitan?
Well, the only thing the people of Lucknow, my hometown, they've heard anything about Charlottesville is through me. Because I've done so many stories about the city in the books, and the first book was totally about Charlottesville, which is published in India. So people have got to know Charlottesville and Lucknow, which is a town of 3 million people, maybe 4. And people who know Lucknow and Charlottesville is also because of me, because that is my hometown. So I don't know about Tampa, how many people know about Charlottesville. But Charlottesville is on the national radar right now for all kinds of reasons. So India, I'm trying to do my best to make Charlottesville popular in my hometown. India's huge.
She made a comment, and I totally agree with this, that
Right.
Charlottesville is potentially, and I'm going to paraphrase your word, almost like a leader in the need for towns of its size or similar size to potentially head in a direction, and we are in a lot of ways first to market in this, and oftentimes the folks that are first to market have the toughest struggle because they are first to market. Normally, when you look at, say, social media, MySpace and Friendster got crushed. Facebook was third to market and gained the share. Charlottesville, using this metaphor, was first to market in having to evolve perhaps some archaic tendencies and head to a direction that's much more 2019, 2020. How do you see this, tough question for you, how do you see this evolution transpiring, and how do you see potentially Charlottesville being a leader that other towns of its size or smaller size duplicate our efforts?
In India or in
And the country, and the U.S.
In the
yeah.
US. Well, people like Richard Spencer, they try to make Charlottesville popular for a different reason. But a lot of towns of this size, especially university towns, can learn from what's going on here and try to. There's also a backlash from the people who are part of the university and other people who want the name of the city to be known for good reasons. And I'm not sure. Charlottesville is a leader in a lot of ways right now, and a lot of cities in America, around the world, in Europe, they can learn from what's going on here and try to keep things, positive, making it a place more, welcoming for all kinds of people.
I love that answer.
Yeah.
We have 3 city councilors watching right now. Kyle Irvin from Charlottesville Transit watching the show right now. Thank you, Sean. Great show. Jerry, really enjoying it. I think it's because of our panel that the show is doing well today. How do you see us being potentially leveraged or mimicked, or the strategies we use scaled to other municipalities across the country? Because Chapel Hill and North Carolina struggling with similar things. I grew up in Williamsburg. Williamsburg has some similar things that it's dealing with. we get the attention because of the unfortunate events of August 11th and 12th, and then some of the comments made by the president following August 11th and 12th, but it is not unique to Charlottesville. How do you see some of the other municipalities, Elizabeth, mimicking or scaling our strategies?
Well, I think one of the most important things is for us to develop some commonly held beliefs and goals within ourselves. I think that travel is very important. As I mentioned, I came here last year with about 15 people from Frederick. And we were coming here for a number of reasons. We were coming here to learn best practices. We were coming here to kind of bond and network within our own delegation. And we were frankly coming here to try to pluck away a few businesses to come to Frederick, where we have been sort of pulling companies from around the country. And so I think an important aspect of ourselves is we need to become more cohesive. I think we need to respect each other's opinions. I mean, I know I'm not right about everything. The problem is I don't know what I'm wrong about, but I know I'm wrong about some things, and I would never assume that everything I say is gospel. I think once we all sort of understand each other's perspectives and understand that we're not going to agree all the time, but if we agree on most things or a lot of things, then I think it's really important for us to showcase that to the rest of the country. I think we need to go to places like Williamsburg and Chapel Hill and places around here, and actions speak louder than words. I'm actually talking with a partner here in the community about making a trip to Chapel Hill sometime this fall to look at regional public transportation issues. But part of that is just showing that we want to work collectively. We want to speak as a common unit.
Love it. I love it. We have filled an hour. It's been super easy. I want to close with some final words. Mm-hmm. We will let you go first, and then we'll close with you. You guys can go any direction you want. Maybe, perhaps, your final word. You do anything you want. I would love for folks to get an opportunity to get to know where they can buy your book.
Okay, you can buy my book. It's called How May I Help You? An Immigrant's Journey from MBA to Minimum Wage. You can buy it on Amazon.com. You can buy it on Barnes & Noble. You can buy it on... you can just Google the name and there'll be a website. You can buy it, no problem. So you
Set
can buy
in Charlottesville.
Charlottesville. You can buy it from Barnes & Noble on Barracks Road. Should be able to buy it from the Dominion, New Dominion, or Old Dominion? New
Dominion.
New Dominion.
Yeah.
And anywhere. And thanks for having me on the show. It was great. I love Charlottesville, and that's why I've written most of my, 70% of my things that I've written are about Charlottesville in the books. And thanks.
And how about radio, NPR standpoint?
I'm a frequent commentator for PRI's The World, which comes out of Boston, but on a national radio. The program is called The World. So I do my commentaries about how I see America and try to show Americans America through my eyes and just talk about things that most American people take for granted, like standing on a street and inhaling the traffic fumes. No. I do that sometimes because it reminds me of India. So that's one of them. I do all kinds of commentaries. You can look me up, say Deepak Singh and PRI, Public Radio International. You can find all my stories there.
I see, as a former journalist myself, print, radio, and television, before launching this business, I see a phenomenal story in the making with what you're doing and the rise of a new president and chief executive officer of the Charlottesville Regional Chamber of Commerce and how she's helping take this community into a new direction.
Sounds great.
Just throwing that out there.
Wow.
Elizabeth Cromwell, final word is yours. Anywhere you want to go.
Well, I first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to be here. I am completely humbled by particularly the board of the Chamber. I think you said Michael Guthrie was tuned in. He is on the board of the Chamber, and they're a phenomenal group of business leaders. And for them to have provided me with an opportunity to try new things here is really exciting. The staff is great. And what I guess I would really like for people to know is we are changing a lot about the Chamber. The Chamber's been a great organization. Historically, it's been around for over 100 years. And while we are building upon, many great things that the organization has done, we are also changing a lot. We have a lot of new events. We have a lot of new initiatives like Member Mondays, programming like that. And so if people have not participated in any chamber events or programming, I want to warmly invite you to try us out. And if you have been involved with the chamber in the past and have stepped away, this is a perfect time to come back.
You are increasing the value proposition of membership. You touched on that in the beginning of the show. Maybe touch on that one more time, because as an entrepreneur, value proposition is big for me.
Well, sure. We want to be providing a return on investment that exceeds the amount of money that you're paying into the chamber. And the tricky thing for us is that means different things to different people. I mean, some people are purely B2B and they, have a specific set of goals. Other people are governmental or nonprofit organizations. So everybody has their own goals to meet. I think what's really important for us is to make sure that we have our finger on the pulse of what the business community cares about, and we want to be providing opportunities. We don't want to compete with what others are doing. So, you do a phenomenal job as well. What we want to do is kind of elevate all the things that are happening in this community to ultimately lift all boats and make the business community here as awesome as it can be.
I love it. I love it. We will archive, thank you, that was solid. We will archive the show in totality on ilovecville.com. We have a full slate. We're working on David Toscano for next week, guys. We also have Richard Fox and Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey is running for Board of Supervisors in the Whitehall District. Richard Fox ran for delegate, but was beaten. We're going to have a roundtable with those gentlemen. We have another show coming up here in 87 minutes, which is What's Barking Local, which is a celebration and showcase of our animal community across Charlottesville and Central Virginia. That's powered by Animal Connection. Deepak, you were phenomenal. I want to give you some props, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, sir.
Success. I knew that was going to happen. She's amazing. Charlottesville Chamber of Commerce. Engage, engage, engage. Learn more, learn more, learn more. Become a member, become a member, become a member. I'm Jerry Miller. We close the show the same way every single time. We ask everybody to embody the golden rule. We don't make it about religion. We just make it about treating other people how you want to be treated yourself. Charlottesville and Central Virginia need it more than ever. I think the Commonwealth and the country need it more than ever. It's the golden rule, the golden rule, and the golden rule. We'll see you now in 86 minutes with What's Barking Local on the I Love CVille Network. Enjoy your afternoon. Good work.
Thank you.
Crushed it.
Thank you so much.
We got one more thing to do. We got a photo. We
Okay.
call it the hero pick for the package.
Okay.
Thank you
We'll
so
see it.
much.
Thank you. You did so well.
Thank you.
Judah's going to take that picture.